Welcome to the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast.
Hello everyone, this is Jarvis Scott with What's Happening in Birmingham. I was able to get Jefferson County District Attorney Danny Carr for one more bonus segment. But you know how you all know I do. If I get in front of some of these people, I got to ask them some of these questions. Let's talk about the importance of jury duty.
Yes, jury duty has two components, what people don't think about. There's a component what they call a petite jury, where you have 12 people decide guilt or innocence based on a trial. Beyond a reasonable doubt is the standard. But you also have what's called a grand jury that people don't think about. That's important as well. Being picked for jury duty is a civic duty. And there are several people who will never get that opportunity. And I think oftentimes in our communities, because of job requirements and family obligations and things of that nature, some people may frown on serving as a possible juror. But for me as district attorney, I ask people from our communities and people from the surrounding communities as well. It is important to serve on a jury duty because you are the voice. You are the voice as it relates to the law and the facts, and you are the determining factor as it relates to whether a person is held accountable or not, or whether a person should be held accountable. So I would urge everybody that jury duty is a civic duty. It's very important, and at the end of the day, if you get that opportunity to serve, I would urge each and every person to consider serving as a possible jury, whether it's grand jury or whether it's in what's called a petite jury as it relates to guilt or innocence.
And what's the typical time people serve on most juries?
You know, here, unlike big cities like California where trials sometimes can take 5 months, here the longest trial that I've known about, that I've even participated in myself, was 2 weeks. And it was a capital murder trial. But typically you serve for a week if you're on a petite jury. Now on a grand jury, you'll serve for 1 week for 3 months, meaning it's a 3-month obligation, but it's only for 1 week within each month. But again, you get to see a variety of cases. You become the investigative body, and you make a determination of whether probable cause exists as it relates to charging decisions. Let me say this, and I think this is very important. What people don't realize is for any felony charge in the state of Alabama, whether it's 1 pill in a car or whether it's capital murder, no one can be tried by a jury unless they have gone through the grand jury process. I'm going to say it again. You have to be indicted to be tried by a jury. Why is that important? Because that is the only way that a person can be determined to whether they're guilty or innocence after they've been indicted by a grand jury. So it's an important part of the process. But at the same time, if you're picked to be on what's called a petite jury, meaning you're one of those 12 individuals that decide whether the state has proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt, then you get to make that decision as well as part of your civic duty and as a part of our community.
Now, at what point when they do the jury, they get sequestered? They get kind of separated?
Typically, we don't sequester juries here. It has to be a very high-profile case to try to keep jurors from looking at newscasts and be influenced by social media or media feeds. But typically, a judge will make a juror or prospective juror swear under oath that they hadn't been influenced by any outside presence, whether it's social media, whether it's friends, whether it's relatives, husbands or wives or whatever. The linchpin is, and the most important aspect of it is that you rely on the facts and only the facts that are presented in a court of law, and you apply that law to the facts. And a judge will tell you in that courtroom that day that the only thing that you can base your verdict on is the facts that you hear from the witness stand and any exhibits that are allowed and the law. So again, the sequestering part comes in if it's a high-profile person and there's a lot of media attention. But we hadn't had that here, and I've been doing this now. In July of this year, Jarvis, will be 20 years for me. And I don't know of a jury that's been sequestered in 20 years.
Now, are there any, I hate to bring this up, exclusions why a person cannot serve on a jury?
Typically, some of the things are you hadn't been a resident in Jefferson County long enough. You had to be a resident for up to 12 months. You cannot be a relative of anybody that's involved in the case, whether it's the lawyers or the person charged or even the judge. You cannot have been convicted of a felony or a crime of moral turpitude. And you have to be over the age of 18 as well. So those are basic requirements. And then to get down to the more meat, nuts, and bolts of it, when there's questioning, what they call voir dire, to show that you could be what's called a fair and impartial juror to decide the case. That's a determining factor as well. Meaning, if it's a murder case and you've had a family member that was murdered, then some people will say that you may not be fair and impartial. So all those things play a factor as well.
Yeah, because I read somewhere like where the prosecution and the defense meet on which jurors they want to keep and which ones they want to,
They get to ask questions in an open forum to prospective jurors. But I tell people all the time, you're not really picking jurors. What you're doing is deselecting. The prosecutor get a certain amount of strikes. The defense get a certain amount of strikes. And then what you're doing is you're left with a certain group. And that's the group you're left with. So you're not necessarily picking people. What you're doing is deselecting people, and you end up with those 12 individuals.
Okay. Just trying to think of anything else that, so work cannot be a reason. Like a lot of people say, well, I got to work, I can't serve on jury.
No, and I tell people this too. If you're working part-time, then that can be a reason to exclude you because obviously there may be a hardship. But if you're a full-time employee, your job or your employer cannot punish you for serving on jury duty. There was actually a civil case where a prospective juror was punished by her employer for serving, and she went to civil court and won a 6-figure settlement because of that.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that was probably, I forgot the name of the case, but that was here in Jefferson County maybe 17 years ago. But there's a letter that we sent out to employers who give their employees hard time. If you're subpoenaed to be on jury duty and you're selected and your employer says, we're going to take your wages because of that, that is an absolute no-no, and it's actually a violation of the law, and they can be sued for that. So, again, that is something that you need to know. But if you're part-time, that's a different story because you're probably hourly, and we can't necessarily enforce the subpoena as it relates to a part-time employee, but you can for full-time employees. So you'll be paid to be here. It's not a lot of money, but at the same time, you'll be compensated for your mileage to come here and serve on jury duty, but your employer cannot take money from you as long as you're under subpoena to be a possible juror in a trial.
Okay. Well, Dan, thank you for coming on. Bonus segment. It just was just on my mind. I thought about, it's something real great to ask you because, you never get the opportunity to answer about the importance sometimes of jury duty. A lot of people think of it as a hassle. And then also in this day and age when people look at jury verdicts and be like, I can't believe this jury did this and did that.
Right.
It's a complete different process.
It is. It's very tedious, and it is a complete different process. And when people look at jury verdicts, especially in criminal cases, they have to be unanimous, which means all 12 have to agree. If there's one person that doesn't agree, then it's a hung jury, and you have to do it all over again. And that's different from other situations where you're just trying to find probable cause. So it gets a little tedious. It really does.
All right, well, Dan, thank you for coming on today.
All right.
I bring on some more future segments. I promise I was only able to get one bonus album, but I think this one will go some miles.
So I can always get that bonus.
For days to come. So thank you all for watching this video. Please check out what'shappenedbirmingham.com for more videos. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all again. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast. Please check out our website, app, or subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest videos today.